Welcome back, and super busy week this week, as you kind of know, with the engine being started earlier in the week. Anyway, so Jeff's been really busy here as well, getting the rest of the parts that make up the fuselage fit together and sort of just, dry fitting, test fitting them and putting clecos in place for when they get bonded. And you'll see more of that in a little bit. And meanwhile, we managed to get on Britt's schedule again for getting some more welding done. So this is the parts of the nose gear retraction system, and you've seen these before in the CAD, but basically we've got this upper arm that is there, you can see highlighted there. That's all the parts there of the upper retraction arm, and then of course there's a lower part as well, so highlighting that there so you can see. And those are the bits that I had cut a little while ago, and just were waiting for Britt to weld them up. So anyway, I went up to his shop and helped him out with getting everything sorted out so he knew what was what. And here you can see he's welding the upper arm together there, and we didn't actually have much of a fixture for that one. It was fairly simple to get it to go together, so I didn't have any real problems with that. And likewise, here's the lower arm, and Britt was giving me a real hard time about my wood fixture that I created, but was impressed by how accurate it was. So anyway, got that one welded up. And then onto the main gear retraction arm. So this is the upper arm, and you've seen this one before, and then the grey is the actual fixture that I sort of had cut for that. There you can see that, all the different parts for that. So we had all that together, and basically got all that just put together, and didn't actually do much other than clamp that together so we could lay the parts in. And here you can see this is on one of the pieces there. We're just basically laying everything in, doing a little bit of cleanup on the edges where the weld's going to be, and just putting fillets on corners where where you've got two different edges that are flushing right next to each other for welding. So Britt's just doing some last minute prep on the different parts there, and it goes into the jig, and then it's ready to be welded up. And one of the other parts of the main gear retraction system is this bracket that bolts to the gear leg. That's the one that's in blue there, highlighted. So that's another one that Britt was welding up, and you'll see there in a second. And of course, and then that's the top one there, so you get an idea of how that one plays out in the whole thing. Okay, so there's the two brackets that bolt up to the gear legs, and those are just tacked right now. They need to be welded. And then there's the two upper brackets. And you can see Britt's done most of the welding, just a little bit more to go on that. And this was a little bit earlier than that, when it was actually, one of them was up just sort of hanging there to cool after he'd done a bunch of welding on it. But you see it's coming out pretty nice, and those will go off to powder coating too after we've sort of fit them and tested and made sure they're working the right way. So that's good progress there. And one of the other parts of the nose gear retraction is these brackets here that mount to the sort of side panels that are in the nose there. So I had cut all the pieces for that a little while ago by hand, and again was just waiting to get on Britt's schedule. So here you can see he's welding up one of those, or at least just sort of tacking it up for now. And that was just one of you didn't need a jig for that. Everything kind of lined up with something else, and just to make sure it was just all square. So getting the last bits of the nose gear stuff done, and there you can see that one's all tacked into place there. So those came out good, and we'll get those back next week when he's finished all the welding on them. So meanwhile, the guys have been busy. These are the aileron spars in there, and they've basically got them primed again on the second coat of primer, and now into waxing, and then they've got the rubber profile on there. So those are ready now to have the molds laid on those. Will be sometime next week. And back to the nose gear. So here are those two pieces again. I just want to show you kind of how they go together, and there'll be some bolts and bushings and stuff in there that join them together like that. You can go through that hole there, and then when it retracts, basically just sort of hinges at this center point here, and that's what lifts the nose gear up. So that's kind of how that will operate. So as I said, some bolts and bushings and stuff in there that joint, and that's how it gets actuated there by the hydraulic cylinder. And while you're checking out more of Jeff's hard work for this week on the fuselage, I'll just give you an update on the reduction drive. So just waiting on a part to come in next week, early hopefully, before I can start putting the rest of that together. And also on the engine, we're just starting to figure out the logistics of taking it up to the dyno, so we can get the dyno tuning done on that. So that'll be the next step there. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play into the open house. I'd really love to have the engine back and already tuned and everything, and have the prop on before the open house. So just sort of stay tuned, and I'll definitely give everybody 4 weeks notice. So they can prepare, but I really want to have the fuselage all together on the gear and the engine there and tuned with the prop on it, so everybody can kind of see how the two major components of the whole aircraft are going to come together when they come by. Anyway, so here you can see on the inside there, Jeff's got all the braces all test fit in there and clecoed into place where they needed clecos to hold them. So that's most of those things are ready to bond together. See, there's the roof braces in there and the roof chase in the center there. There's all been fit in there, so really making good progress there. And of course none of that's all bonded in yet, but it won't be long, and we'll be doing that. So probably next week start bonding the next couple things into place there. And we actually have to embed these straps for the parachutes in those sort of A pillars that come down there from the roof and go through the forward bulkhead. And then you can see the aft bracing there on the side of the cabin. And if you haven't already seen the video of my hangar that's for sale in the Ozark Mountains, I linked that below if you're interested in watching. So that's our update for this week, and thanks again for watching.